All right, everyone. I hope you are excited for this next talk. I know that I am. We've not had a talk like this before, and that's part of why Austin and I just absolutely had to have them. This is two speakers, Daniel Kim and Emily. And Emily's favorite chore in Animal Crossing is shaking trees and getting peaches. And I like to shake the trees also, although I get stung by bees a lot. And Daniel's favorite chore in real life is smelling fresh laundry, which I guess means you also have to do the laundry. And I support that. So, everyone, please give a very warm welcome to Daniel and Emily.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our
Hi.
talk, DevOps for high schoolers. We hope that you'll come and enjoy the talk. If you have any comments or concerns, or if you want to just talk to us after the talk, we'll be in the Discord or on Twitter. We will have all of our usernames in the bottom right of every slide, except the first one. So let me go ahead and go to the next slide where I can introduce myself. So, hi, my name is Daniel. I'm a senior developer relations engineer at a company called New Relic, which happens to be a sponsor of this amazing conference. So go check us out in the Discord. I'm also a part-time wizard. I'm just kidding. I'm not a wizard. I just love wizards. And I want to kind of introduce myself a little bit. So I'm first pretty new to DevOps. I worked exclusively in front-end development and React before joining New Relic. And I have been loving my time like working with containers, learning about how infrastructure works in the last couple of months as I've done really cool projects with New Relic and with DevOps. I'm also pretty new to Animal Crossing, but I really like my outfit today. I picked it up myself. I forgot to change the settings, so my eyes are not blue, they're black, but I'm very new to Animal Crossing. I also have very short attention span, which you will soon find out. I love GIFs and I'm pretty fun, I would say. So please be friends with me on Twitter. Here are both our usernames on the bottom right. Now I want to introduce Emily, who's my friend. We're both part of Bit Project, which is a 501c3 nonprofit where we teach people how to code and build really cool stuff. And Emily's a high schooler, and this is her first talk. So please, everyone, give a really warm welcome to Emily. Emily, who are you?
Hi, guys. I happen to know the answer to that question, Daniel. So the biggest point I want to make, I'm a high schooler. I'm a junior in high school, which is, I think, is pretty cool. I'm a student DevRel at Bit Project with Daniel, and I'm also a part-time wizard. And if you want to know what that means, you can check out future stack that's coming up. But anyways, I'm also new to DevOps, so I'm still a student. I'm learning the ropes of the tech industry. I'm just like learning more about it because it's a lot more different than I expected. Because I didn't even know what DevOps was for, like I think a year ago. I have some experience in the cloud, and I do enjoy playing in CTFs and ethical hacking. So right now, with Daniel, I'm working in a project. We're developing a learning platform, but today we're going to be focusing on making DevOps accessible and just more engaging for everyone.
That's exciting. So today I'm going to kind of talk about, as a beginner, how DevOps seems and how we can work to make it more accessible and fun for people. So when we think of DevOps, it's quite something, because especially when I found out that I was going to be working at New Relic and I didn't have any background in DevOps, I got pretty scared because when we think of DevOps, we think of, this is the first GIF that came up on Jiffy when you type in DevOps. It's a man with six arms trying to fix something as it's all on fire on his phone, laptop, typing furiously to fix whatever production system is down. And that seems really scary. Also, you need a lot of coffee to deal with that kind of situation. And you could say DevOps is a lot of these hot words like observability, infrastructure sysops, Docker, AWS, Kubernetes. These are all very complicated three-letter acronyms that are really intimidating. Because even in the talks today, even though they were really fun and engaging, for a lot of beginners, these three-letter acronyms, these buzzwords can be really intimidating. So that's why me and Emily worked on a workshop to make it fun. So this is the question we asked ourselves when we embarked on this journey. What can we do as students and student developers to make DevOps fun? So we built a workshop together. It's called Air and Prod. We're actually premiering it in a couple of weeks. We built a workshop to make sure that students, before they get into the industry, are aware of the term DevOps, because DevOps as a field is growing year over year. And we want to make sure that we can get as many diverse and awesome candidates into the pipeline as possible. And we want people to find out about DevOps in high school and college when they're still learning about the tech industry. So that's where this came about. So we tried to design it as a fun, exciting, fabulous, amazing, cool extravaganza, introducing students to site reliability engineering. And yes, my pastime is making slides. We did spend a good 20 minutes making this 4-second introduction into the slide. So yeah. So today we're going to talk about lessons learned from building a DevOps workshop for high schoolers. So let's get started. The first lesson we learned is how to make things relatable for high schoolers. So the first question we try to ask ourselves is, why should people care? Why should high schoolers care about uptime or SLA? And what we found with a lot of workshops that I attended, especially when I was first starting out in tech, was that there's a lot of hello world workshops where they try to get you started with a particular framework or technology. But the honest truth is that Hello World isn't the most engaging or fun project to get started with, especially if you're trying to hook someone with a new technology. So the first lesson we learned was, don't do stuff for the sake of the demo. Really try to relate it back to real life scenarios and how it can be applied to something that students can understand. So yeah, that leads to my next point, which is help folks understand the context of what you're doing. When would this be useful? When would this particular exercise be used in the real life? So when would I use this? Who would use this? So basically, during this workshop, we built we used a real production e-commerce app with simulated outages to teach folks about site reliability engineering. So this is NerdMart, which is this is our logo for New Relic. His name is Relly, and this is a picture of Walmart, just NerdMart. This is the logo we used for our production e-commerce website that we used to teach students about site reliability engineering. So what we had students do was they used our observability platform at New Relic to actually see the issues that were going on that were simulated in production, to understand what kind of errors were caused and what it meant for the end customer. And students were actually using our platform to debug this app in production. And they did things like digging through data and logs like a real site reliability engineer would do, to really understand exactly what site reliability engineering as a field is and how it can be applied to a real life website. What does it look like for an SRE when something is down? And what do they do to kind of fix things, which has been really cool. So Emily, why don't you start us off with our second lesson we learned as we were building our amazing workshop?
So Daniel's talked kind of about the technical side of it, going into logs and stuff like that. But the truth is, when you're trying to make something appealing to high schoolers or even just beginners in DevOps, you have to have the human part of it, which in this case is having a story. So let's think about this. How do games keep children engaged? So when I was growing up, I played Pop Tropica, Club Penguin, Maple Story, and in fact, I woke up every day at 7 a.m. before school just to play Club Penguin, and I had so much stuff on it. It was basically the Animal Crossing of my childhood. And let's think about it. So what do these games have that made me wake up at 7 a.m. to be excited and start playing? And of course, we didn't forget Animal Crossing. That's another awesome example of keeping children and adults engaged. So what are in these games? Well, first of all, you have characters. You have characters in the game. So right there you got Tom Nook, and then you have in Pop Tropica so many characters. I think there was Diary of a Wimpy Kid Island. In Club Penguin, everyone's a character. And because in stories you have characters. And this just makes the student more engaged, and storytelling is so essential. So you got to have characters. The characters have personalities, and that's what makes I think just makes it appealing to beginners. And once again, I'm going to use the word again, engaging. That's what we're going for in this talk. So we have some characters in our workshop, and the first character's name is Debug. Haha, get it? Debug. So they're the hacker extraordinaire, they're the villain, and they love to cause chaos in production. So in DevOps, chaos in production is a big thing, as you've seen from the previous talks. And using this character, we're able to transform boring three-letter acronyms into something game-like and a lot more engaging to students or beginners who are starting in DevOps. And of course, we got the main character, which is the security engineer. They're super stressed out and they really want coffee, which I think is like everyone in the tech industry. And they want to find debug, get it? Debug. And the person who is the security engineer is you. You are the main character. And you in this workshop are going to try to find the bug and play through like a kind of like a capture the flag competition type thing, where you submit flags and you get points. And it's super exciting because you can see people climbing up the leaderboard. So Daniel, how do we scope DevOps for beginners then?
That's a really good question, Emily. And I think this is something I really kind of struggled with as I made this workshop. So I'm super excited to share my findings with the community of what I found as I was developing this workshop with all these high schoolers. The first thing that I want to talk about is configuration issues. So the first thing that I tried to do when I was developing this workshop, originally it was not an SRE oriented workshop. It was supposed to be a Docker Kubernetes microservices workshop. And we found that trying to get configuration set up so a student can be successful, like setting up a cluster or a Docker container, is enormous because no one wants to spend more than 10 minutes. I feel like even 10 minutes is a stretch. No one wants to spend more than 5 minutes setting up their environment. So if your workshop requires Docker version 12.3 with Python version 2.712 and 40 other packages for someone to even get started with the first step, it's probably not the most accessible workshop. Which leads to the next point. Is it accessible? Can someone with a crappy laptop join in? Not every one of us is blessed with a top of the line MacBook Pro with an eGPU and all this like hardware that can handle a lot of the technologies that we are actually working with nowadays in production. So these are questions I ask myself, like what needs to be installed? Do people need to have powerful machines or could it be simplified? Because a lot of concepts, especially if you're demoing to a younger or more junior audience, there are probably ways and workarounds where you could use web technologies. There's a lot of online IDs out there and things like that to make sure that the burden is not on the students to provide the hardware to run your workshop. So that's something that we actually grappled with a lot as we were making the workshop, because a lot of the high school students and college students we target work on Chromebooks and other kind of low powered hardware that may not support a lot of the tooling that we want to demonstrate to the students. Also, the third point is, how is it not overwhelming? Is it super technical and intimidating, especially if you're trying to reach a beginner audience? I've seen beginner, I'm doing air quotes, but you guys can't see it in Animal Crossing, but I'm doing air quotes right now. If it's beginner oriented and you're bringing in jargon that no one understands, it's probably not the most accessible workshop. So we need to, these are questions that I ask myself. Is the content badly formatted and hard to read? You'd be surprised how many tutorials are very hard to read because no one remembers to format their markdown files. And then you kind of struggle for hours and hours trying to figure out what to do. Also, does it sound like a rocket science course? I've seen a lot of tutorials where they don't define 3-letter acronyms because they just assume everyone knows what those mean. So it's really important to make sure that you read it from a beginner's perspective to make sure that your content is accessible. Also, is your content a course syllabus? Emily, do you want to take a second to kind of talk about this point? Because I know you put this one in.
Yeah, I specifically put this one in, and the reason is that I'm a high schooler, so I read a lot of course syllabuses and my teachers go over core syllabuses, and they're just super boring. Like, imagine having a whole list of objectives that you have to learn, and it's filled with vocabulary that you don't know yet, and someone's just reading it out really slowly and asking you to highlight words you don't know. So that's just super technical and very intimidating, and of course super overwhelming. And this is exactly what the opposite of what DevOps for beginners should look like. And addressing these points that we've gone over before, we can turn boring content like a core syllabus into something so much more interesting. And all of this, like I said before, makes DevOps unappealing and overbearing. And it doesn't have to be like that. DevOps doesn't have to be those two characteristics. So
Yeah, so this is the conclusion. How do we make DevOps fun, engaging, and the hot new gossip at your local high school? Well, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but a guy can dream. As a developer advocate for a DevOps company or a DevOps related tooling company, that's kind of my hope and dream. So this is kind of what we did to make our workshop as amazing and accessible as possible. We made sure that everything was accessible in a browser. So no coding was needed. Nothing needed to be downloaded, especially since we're trying to introduce something as complicated as site reliability engineering and DevOps. We were like, let's not try to add coding and like other complexities on top of it. Let's try to introduce like the larger concepts behind site reliability engineering in this workshop. So we made sure that in this workshop, no coding was needed, especially because the concepts were very foreign. So the lesson is, don't introduce unnecessary complexity if you're trying to demo something that's already complex. Point 2, we made sure that it was gamified because, who doesn't enjoy a nice game with some swag at the end? So we actually used a modified capture the flag platform to keep track of every single person in the workshop's progress through a bunch of challenges that we programmed as a scavenger hunt. So students would look for like slowdowns or errors or things like that in our observability platform. And we tracked every student's progress through all of these scavenger hunts. And we're going to give away swag to the top most fastest bug finder. So we made sure that it was gamified and fun, and there was some kind of incentive and reward at the end. So there was a little bit of friendly competition among the students. Also, we made sure to answer the question why, because a lot of workshops I've noticed, especially in DevOps, they don't really answer the basic question of when, as a high school student, would I ever need to know this? So we kind of broke it down because we had a actual e-commerce website that was going down, and students had to figure out what parts were going down and why. So we tried to break down as best as possible why non-site reliability engineers, why high schoolers should care about uptime and SLA. So here's our final CTA, me and Emily, that we put together. Okay, this is the call to action. See what I did there? I broke down the 3-letter acronym. I demonstrated what I was supposed to do. Okay, never mind. I was supposed to hear laughs, but I realized that this is all on Twitch. So I'm just assuming everyone laughed at that joke. So, oh, thank you. So me, Emily, and the student organization that I help run and I'm part of are creating a series of workshops like the one that we talked about in this talk to introduce beginners to DevOps. So if you are a developer advocate, if you are a person who's really passionate about DevOps and wants to make it more accessible, we would love to work with you to create more workshops and things like this to get more people into site reliability engineering and DevOps. So we don't have to talk about diversity and inclusion again, because everyone will be so diverse and inclusive already, So yeah, let's work together, and please hit us up on Twitter. Emily, do you have any last words before we hand it over to the rest of the crew?
My last word is follow me and I'll follow you back. Just kidding. My last words are bringing this entire talk together. Keep in mind that making DevOps, but DevOps really isn't that complex of a thing. The way you define it really impacts how others view it. So when Daniel first introduced DevOps to me, I had no idea what it was. He just said DevOps. And I was like, okay, developer operations? Like, what is that? And I just realized there's this whole other section outside of the coding and product management that deals with keeping sites up and running. So that's such an important part, because if, I don't know, if TikTok went down, and that's not really a site, but let's just say TikTok went down, my entire generation would just freak out. So that's why DevOps is very important.
So yeah, thank you. I
Oh
don't
my
know how to end
gosh.
workshops or
That's
talks.
okay. I'll end it for you. Thank you so much, Daniel and Emily. Emily, great job for your first presentation. We were just all talking about how we would benefit from taking the workshop. Like, theoretically, we know what DevOps is, but like, can't hurt. It was amazing. I loved it. I'm gonna modify one of the questions from the Q&A a little bit. So there's a question for Daniel about where you got the idea of getting high schoolers into DevOps. And then I'm going to add a second part for Emily, which is that what kind of caught your eye and how did you get into Daniel's program?
Yeah, so I can start with my idea of getting high schoolers into DevOps. I think I read somewhere that Sam Aaron, who was actually in this conference earlier, actually developed Sonic Pi as a way to get like students into like coding, and I feel like. And I think that's one of the reasons that Sonic Pi is so popular, is because it's so easy to just pick up Sonic Pi and get started with coding, and anyone can do it, even non-technical folks, and it really reduces that barrier to entry. And as a developer advocate that is trying to get more and more folks into DevOps and into like site reliability engineering, I think it's my job and kind of my responsibility to make sure that it doesn't seem as intimidating to like work in this field, and then make it more fun, because I'm a fun person, I'd like to think. So I try to bring some of that fun with me to work, and try to make the work I do make it easier for other people who are, especially from non-traditional backgrounds and things like that, into tech. And one way that I can just beta test all of my ideas to make things accessible is through high schoolers, because they will give you their honest feedback so harshly. Like if something is not fun, they will tell you straight to your face that it's not fun, which it makes it really good for development. It's a good focus group to start with, to make sure that your content is fun and engaging.
It's a quick feedback loop, right?
Exactly. Because a lot of adults, they will sugarcoat things. They're like, well, this could have been better. But high schoolers are like, nope, this is not fun.
Yeah. I feel like you're like enlarging the age gap a bit too much. Like I'm not that much younger than you.
Okay, yeah. I am also pretty close to high school age, so that also helps.
Okay, well, I guess it's my turn to answer the question.
Yeah.
And basically, how did I get into all of this? Well, I mean, it's kind of a long story, but let me just start with what high schools right now are doing to get kids into tech. They're doing a much better job than they were before. Like there's a lot of coding classes, there's like clubs, there's programs you can join, but I don't think they really hit on the whole, they don't define the tech industry well enough, because it's very diverse. There's a lot of different jobs and a lot of different roles. So right now in schools, they're just emphasizing the coding part. They're like, learn some Python, print out hello world. Like, yeah, that's helpful. It's helpful to have coding skills. But what Bit Project, Daniel's organization, showed to me is that there's just so many facets of the tech industry, like DevOps, where there's a lot of opportunities in there, and you don't have to be amazing at coding just to get into the tech industry. So that's how I kind of got into it, because I've always been interested in coding, or just like computers in general. But I've never really considered, I didn't really want to go code every day and just like sit in front of the computer and write lines and lines and lines of code. So seeing Bit Project, it was a whole new perspective. And that's why I've decided that I definitely want to go into the tech industry. And I was hesitant before because of the horrible, like, because I've seen people where they say, oh yeah, I sit in front of the computer 8 hours a day and I just code and fix bugs. Like that wasn't super appealing to me, but I didn't know that I definitely like computers. So that's my story.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, honestly, I'm with you. I was a career changer, as it were, and I had to learn to code as an adult, and it was like I knew nothing, and some people I knew would be like, "Well, this is the book for beginners," and I would be like, "Well, it can't be for beginners because I don't know what it says."
Yeah, I
So,
think the bad thing about the education system right now is that they're teaching us that you need to be a master at coding and to get into tech. But the reality is many people learn coding when they're older and
yeah,
they're just as successful.
yeah, absolutely. You do not need, from the bottom of my heart and everyone I work with, no one is the best coder. We're all just doing our best. Thank you again, both so much. Everyone, please throw up some hype for Daniel Kim and Emily Chen. I heard Emily will follow you back on Twitter. Okay.
Yeah, I'll follow you back. Free follows.
And I'm just like so psyched about that talk. I loved it so much. What a dream. And remember, you can ask questions in the speaker Q&A in our Discord. And you can have direct access to the speakers. They're going to love it. That was so good and really honestly brings up a lot of really relevant points